Good evening. Welcome to Vibin with Ashley Live. I'm your host, Ashley Live, and thank you for joining me on Saturday evening. I hope you guys are having a great weekend. Tonight we have Kevin Farris, singer, songwriter, guitarist, season 18 of NBC's The Voice, Team Nick. We're going to bring Kevin in here shortly. And so thank you guys for joining. I'm going to start off with sharing a lyric from Kevin's song Higher that just came out in October. It's been long time, staring at the empty space in his mind, holding on to conversations way too deep. Before the distance turned itself into a tragedy. And he started thinking elevation was a luxury. That's from Kevin's single Higher, and that came out in October. Kevin is here, and I'm going to bring him on in. Kevin!
Hey,
How's it going?
good.
Awesome. So I was actually just reading some song lyrics from your song Higher that came out in October.
Oh, awesome. Very cool.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to repeat it because I kind of butchered it because I was looking at the chat. I was doing like 4 different things at once. So I'm going to reread it since I botched it up the first time.
No
It's
problem.
been a long time staring at the empty space in his mind, holding on to conversations way too deep before the distance turned itself into a tragedy, and he started thinking elevation was a luxury. So what do you want to tell us about that song, Kevin?
I think kind of specifically when I wrote it, I mean, I guess any artist would tell you there's songs come from places of, personal experience. And I think at the time there was some turmoil going on with, family life and kind of craziness at home. And
Yeah.
I was actually, I started penning the lyrics to that song when I was flying home from LA from this whole experience with The Voice.
Yeah.
Because I was, when you're trapped 30,000 feet in the air, what I mean by you're flying, there's only so many things you can do. You could watch the movie in front of you. You can type on your computer or whatever.
Right.
So I just started writing lyrics, and I was kind of feeling that isolation just up in the air in the cabin of this airplane. And then, of course, the minute I landed, it seems like the next week COVID started. So it's like this perfect storm of isolation. And so it all kind of, I guess it all kind of tied itself together.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it's really, the song itself is kind of speaks to isolation and distance and seeing things in your life sort of from a, like, external perspective. Like, it's almost like I was away in this world of adventure as a musician, and you're seeing things that are playing out in your life that when you're not in this la la land, you're sort of like experiencing on a day-to-day basis. You sort of take for granted. They're just like the normal minutia of your everyday life. And it was just an interesting perspective when you're flying in an airplane and you're thinking about things like that. I mean, I guess you don't have to be flying in an airplane to have deep thoughts. But
But then, like, with COVID happening, it kind of was like, isolation and being outside of your body and realization and everything that's happening. Right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I don't think, and trust me, like, I know that every single musician or creative person that's on this planet right now, I'm sure has experienced COVID the same way. Just like, I was thinking about this when I was driving. I was like, it's not a situation where people are, it's like, oh, I don't know. I can't really, I'm not ready to go out and do, perform or play my songs. It's literally like, you can't. Like, we physically had everything that we do on a day-to-day basis, like, pulled away from us. So you go through a whole new level of introspection, and you're like, what is it really that I do? Like, as a musician, like, it's a whole new definition of experience. And it's been fun. So, I mean, it's been an experience of, like I said, introspection. I think, like, there's probably, everybody can attest to, like, going deep inside and being mindful and thinking about everything that's been going on. So
Yeah. Be creative, but also take care of yourself, because this is not normal for any of us. So just be good to yourself, and whatever creativity means for you, lean into that and follow your passion.
Amen.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff. So for those of you who are just joining the chat, this is Kevin Farris, and we are so happy to have you in the chat, Kevin.
I'm appreciative of the opportunity. It's all, every time we've done, so like, as I was saying, like when I first sort of got back from the whole experience, there were a lot of like live sessions, and I think people were scrambling to try to figure out how do we do live streaming and how do we do Instagram concerts. And it was honestly, if I can be like very, very brutally honest, it was exhausting trying to figure that out, because it's not a normal thing. Like, it's not what musicians or any creative person is used to doing. We're used to interfacing, you know, and even people that, you know, host interviews and blog. I mean, you're used to being there and feeding off of each other's energy, and now we're separated by a screen. So it's like, yeah, I did probably 6 of these in a row with local papers and local this and that, and it was fun, but it's like, man, this is so weird. I can't even begin to, you know, I don't know. You know where I'm going with it, but
no, I totally know what you're going, because it's like just the energy that you get from other people and just how we live as a society, right? Like, people like to go to brunch all the time. People like to go to shows. People like to go to movies and see their friends and family. And it's kind of like, nope, everything you know, just throw it out the window.
Right.
Everything.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, I don't know. I think I guess if you try to look for the silver lining, you can think like, how do I dive deep into this and find some of the purest aspects of what I do on a day-to-day basis. And I think there's some gold in there, you know, because I think as songwriters, especially, like, you really truly try to dive deep into what you're writing about and experiencing. Because I've been paying attention to Spotify. There's amazing songs still coming out during quarantine and COVID.
Oh,
like, people are really like harnessing all of this ridiculous energy and like still putting out music. And
yeah,
so that's important. I mean, I think you adapt and you find a way, but man, I'm dying to get back to like some sense of normalcy. If that will ever exist again, I don't know.
Hopefully it will. We're all hoping it does, because we just kind of want that. Yeah, you're right. Like, some sense of normalcy, like meeting someone and being able to see their face. Like, it was so weird when we first started wearing masks. It's like, I don't know who anyone is. Right?
Right. Although I kind of like, I mean, honestly, I kind of like wearing masks, because I feel like I have like a natural resting bitch face sometimes. So like the mask kind of covers that up. I feel like, I don't know. It's nice.
I think that's so funny. That's
I mean,
great.
really, like, and it's not because I'll just be thinking something and my face will be like, and people are like, why are you mad? I'm like, oh no, I'm not mad. I'm just deep inside my thoughts, you know?
No, this is just my face.
Yeah. This is just how I am.
So Kevin, you grew up in a musical family and you were inspired by your dad to play guitar. Tell me a little bit more about music and the significance it had on your childhood.
Yeah. So, this goes back to like, God, we grew up, I have an older brother who's a year apart from myself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's been the drummer in all of the bands I've played in. He's actually like the prodigy in the family, but he doesn't really play music anymore. He's self-taught, you know, drums and stuff. He's amazing.
Wow.
But yeah, so my dad, when he was younger, before he had kids, he lived in Colorado, and he was a singer-songwriter, and he was out playing open mics and doing his thing and just like being a songwriter. And so when he started having kids, I say this all the time, but he used to leave his guitars out, his acoustic guitars, and I don't know if he did it intentionally ever, but something tells me he had like an inkling to like, maybe if I leave these guitars out, my sons will pick them up. But I used to do that. Like, he had this Guild acoustic guitar, and he would leave it on the couch.
Mm-hmm.
I would just pick it up, and I would start like hitting it and like trying to make noises when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean this sincerely. I don't mean to in any way like make this sound cliche, but like at that moment when I was doing that, I did feel some connection to like, this is cool. Like, I want to make this sound good someday, you know?
Totally.
So, as that progressed, as I got older, I started forming bands with my brother and his friends. And yeah, it just, I say familial experience, because I think for every step of my musical career, you know, my family's been involved in one way or the other. So it's inevitable. There's just no way to avoid that, you know. My mom is a storyteller. She works at a library. So it's like, it's all part of what we do, I guess.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a natural progression for you to get into music, because it was everywhere and there was so much creativity going on. For
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And like, I think when I finally was like, man, I want to make this a career. A couple of my friends in high school and myself, we formed a band and we toured, I guess, you know, like DIY tours.
Yeah.
And I think the first time I was like, for sure that this is like what I want to do for the rest of my life, was when we did a do-it-yourself tour. We were on the road. I think we were in like Tennessee somewhere, just driving on an empty road. And I was looking out the window and I'm like, this would be an amazing way to like live a 9 to 5. Just like you're traveling to a new state every day, you're playing music, you're connecting with people. So that's where the itch, I think, started. And I mean, in terms of like trying to pursue this as like a full-time career,
Right.
I've always wanted to be, you know, kind of a rock star. But yeah, I mean, so yeah, it's just been a progression. It's been familial influence, and yeah, I feel blessed that I've had that in my life, I guess.
Yeah, it's such a cool way to grow up too, because it's like you don't know anything else, right? Like when your parents bring you into the world, it's like you can't pick your parents, right? So it's like we all have these totally different childhoods because of who raised us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, and I really mean this like sincerely. Like if you met, I feel like my mom could have her own TV show.
Yeah.
Just based on how quirky and funny she is. Like and I mean this sincerely. Like I'm such a big fan. She's hilarious. If you ever saw her do like one of her like outreach programs for the schools that she goes to, she's like a celebrity. Like when she goes to these schools, these kids are like, Miss Julie, because she's so animated and so like she's just wacky. And I think you're right. I think like inherently genetically, I think like everybody just sort of downloads what they get from their parents, and like in some way you start to form your own path, right? So
right.
I just, you know, not at the risk of sounding too cliche, I think that's sort of what happened.
I love it. But that's so fun though.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I wouldn't have it any other way at this point.
Good enough. How would you describe the music that you create?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, it's a really good way of putting it. I guess genre wise, I try to stay away from that, in terms of like honing in on a genre. I think that there's a lane that I probably naturally write in. Like, I think there's kind of a pop rock, folk rock, you know, however you want to put it, indie folk genre that I kind of write in. But I guess for me, the only way that I can describe my creative output is like when I listen to a song, and this is the way I usually consume music. I find a song that I love, and I literally burn a hole into it. Like it could be on Spotify, it can be on whatever it is. It used to be with CDs. Like my first CD I ever bought was Smells Like Teen Spirit, or I'm sorry, Nirvana CD, but the first Nirvana CD. So I was listening to Smells Like Teen Spirit on loop. I just burned a hole in the CD, and that's the same way I listen to music now. So I'm like, what is it about these songs that I listen to that like makes me feel that way? There's something in it that I connect with, and so I try to just kind of download that and translate that, and like I guess I just play or write the songs that I would want to listen to, I guess is the way I would put it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody does that though. I don't think it's like I think that's just the way you write songs. Like you're just experiencing that, you know, and, but yeah, I try to, as best I can, connect personally with something I'm going through, and then just kind of add little creative pieces to it that hopefully connect with others that are listening to it.
I love it. Yeah, I think sometimes people are like, oh yeah, but it's not a genre. And I'm like, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be a genre. It's just like a sound. Like, what is that sound? And I think you hit it on the head pretty perfectly. It's just like music that you would want to listen to that just moves people.
Yeah, I mean, as a general rule, I think as a musician, if like, even if I was, and I'm no authority on like songwriting, but if I was going to tell like a very young musician, like how to start writing songs, I'd be like, just write the songs you want to listen to. Just write the songs you want to hear. That's it.
Yeah.
Because you'll find from that, you will carve your own path. And it's a kind of a natural thing through ups and downs. Like it's not a you know, just a amazing like rainbows and butterfly thing. You're going to have some lows, but
yeah,
that would be the way I would describe it.
Totally. What's your creative process like?
It's interesting. That's a really good question, and I want to answer it like completely honestly. I actually, there are times when I'm filled with so much anxiety when I sit down and try to write a song, and and I mean this sincerely. And I think it's because part of what you do when you're writing is your subconscious knows you're about to like share this with whomever is willing to listen,
right?
And on some scale, people are going to hear what you're feeling and expressing, and so I almost feel like I have this like supercharged like espresso brain that's like, oh man, you're writing something and people might think it's too weird. So technically, I guess the way that I write songs is like I sit for about 10 minutes and I overthink everything, you know, just go nuts. And and then it seems like the wave crashes, and I start kind of diving into what I'm really experiencing, and then I put pen to paper. Usually what I do as far as writing songs is I usually hear a melody, and it doesn't have to have any words to it. I can just be like, you know, and then I'm like, okay, there's my, you know, there's that little carrot. I can follow that.
Right.
And then and then I'm like, all right, well, what am I feeling, and what pours into that? What words can I attach to that melody, and what can I, you know, what experience can I attach to that? And then typically the lyrics follow the music for me. And I know a lot of people that do lyrics first.
Yeah.
I've never been able to do that. I don't know why. I just can't. Usually when it turns into like some weird poetry when I just start writing lines and lines of words. And I don't know. It's hard for me to frame music around that. So I usually go music first, then lyrics, and then try to, you know, try to create 2 minutes and 30 seconds of entertainment. I guess that's the way that I would describe it.
Thank you for being so honest about that, because when I ask that question, I get so many different answers across the board, and people are like, well, it honestly just depends on the song. Like, it could just be like, I could have 117 voice memos in my phone, or I could be in the shower and hear something, and it's like the way the water hits, and that's, you know, the beat, right?
Right. Yeah.
Because,
I have those moments too. Like, I think, and I would say that you're probably a creative person too. I mean, you're doing things that you're interfacing with people, you're experiencing, you know, different modes of creativity, but you're thinking of ways that, you know, you can interview people and questions you can ask. And I think anybody that has that sort of like that framework in their brain, there are moments where, yeah, you could be walking through Trader Joe's or whatever, and you're like, oh, right, I should ask that question, or I should. So yeah, I think that there's something to that for sure. But when I compartmentalize everything and actually try to like make something of it, it's like you know, I have to, there's a little bit of a process, like a stepwise thing, but
right.
And I'm in the middle of that now. Like, I am writing nonstop. So
yeah, you were telling me that earlier. So talk to me a little bit more about this songwriting that's been happening during quarantine.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think what I was mentioning prior to this is like, obviously we got off the plane from LA and everything was shut down. So everybody's like, okay, now what? we spend 2 weeks just like getting fat and not working out and just eating food. And so I spent a bunch of time writing when I first got off the plane, so to speak. But I think there was an evolution. I was doing live shows or live Instagram stuff. Yeah. And I think there was an evolution of like writing that was very healthy for me, because I was getting out things that were pertinent to what I was experiencing at that moment in time, that were very relevant, and like, okay, you know, there's a wild thing that just happened. You did this TV thing and whatever. Yeah. But I think since time has passed and I've gotten back to like sitting down on my meditation cushion and like just getting back to like sort of the core of what I want to like produce, I've certainly let a lot of time pass, but I've been just like diving really deep into what I want sort of the next 10 years to be like in terms of like songwriting. And so you know, it hurts in my mind a little bit because I'm like, I know that you have to be pushing out content constantly, but my philosophy is that people want to feel you at your core. They don't want they don't want a plastic version of you. So if you can really, really access that, that's your best bet. And so I've been working on that. I've been sitting I have a little studio in my garage, and I've just been writing and recording and teaching myself how to record and like, you know, so it's been, I guess that's the best way I can describe the process, I guess. Yeah.
No, I love that, because I was actually watching something today that had to deal with content. People are like, oh, well, like I need to put out content every day, and I need to do songs and this and that. But sometimes it's just like, you don't have to do it as frequently as you think. It's just like, we want quality over quantity. So even if you posted 4 things a month, right? That's better than 15 things that are just like kind of half-assed. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I think I fall into that trap. Like, I think everybody does, because we have like social media has just, I mean, social media has taken over the music industry. And I don't mean to say that like I'm some authority, but it's just, if you just observe it, it really is the truth. Like, there are huge music artists that are being broken on TikTok, and like, it's like literally the new door. It's like the new door that is opening to get you into the industry. And so, because you know, you can go viral for posting some goofy song, and then the next, like, what was that guy that, it's like an Irish song or a Scottish song. The guy literally has a record deal now. I can't remember what it's called. Some kid from Ireland just like singing to himself, and now he has a record deal. So I mean,
And you're like, what?
Yeah, well, there's this volatility, right? Or there's this access to this like whole new world of like, I guess, people viewing what you're doing. And so I think I have for sure fallen into that trap. I think I know even if my closest musician friends don't want to admit it, they have fallen into that trap too, where you're just like content.
Yeah.
But the truth is, like, I find, at least when I post something, the most connection that I get is when I'm truly like, I felt like my post was just being me. And then people, I see literally the most, like whatever, the most likes or because I think it's just very easy to tell when someone's feeling like themselves and they're just vibing, you know, and as opposed to like, I have to do this, I need likes, I need numbers, you know. So it's just a weird world. It's totally different, but we have to adapt. That's what musicians do and creatives do.
Have to adapt and stay creative, but we don't have to post every day. We don't, because nobody needs all that. You know what I mean? You don't want to go online and see the same person over and over and over and over again every day. It's a little much.
But also on, like, I guess to piggyback on that, I think like the other cool thing, I mean, I say that as sort of like a cautionary tale, but I think the other cool thing about what is happening with the social media, like, you know, burst or this bubble is like, we are, as musicians or as creatives, we are finding innovative ways to get ourselves out there. Like, and it's fun because never in my life I think I'd be editing videos the way I'm doing it now, or like using Final Cut, or like using Adobe Premiere, you know. So I'm sitting, you know, I'm learning things and I'm teaching myself, because you want to get your stuff into, you know, if you feel like you've written something that you want somebody to hear, you want it to be high quality, right?
Of course.
So you're like, man, YouTube, how do I get this like filter to look good? Or how do I like make the audio good? Which is kind of cool. So like on the other side of it, you're like, wow, I mean, if we didn't have a pandemic, I might not have learned this stuff, you know? So.
Right. Because you would probably be on the road touring.
Well, yeah, that was my plan for this past summer. I actually I really truly did. I was, I don't know if are you familiar with like the So Far Sounds?
I love So Far Sounds. Yes.
Yeah. So I was fortunate that I, you know, prior to everything closing down, I had booked there was a couple shows in Minnesota, and it was like email agreements, because we were just going to get to the point where we would lock everything in. But I had, you know, I was plotting things out on the map, and I was like, all right, I'm going to be going this whole summer. Yeah. And nothing, you know, it's like, now what?
Yeah.
I guess I'll just look at my phone and try to convince people I play music or whatever.
I love it. You've covered songs by Ed Sheeran, Alan Stone. What other musicians do you admire?
You know, one of the musicians that I absolutely love and I've been listening to like on repeat is Sam Fender. I believe he's from the UK, if I have this right. Maybe he's from Ireland, but I absolutely love his take on, I guess, like indie rock or indie pop rock, because one of the coolest things that I got to experience is that when I was growing up as a high school kid, I grew up in the town that Fall Out Boy and like Plain White T's and Rise Against all got their big jump from.
Yeah.
And so, and I say this a lot, but when you're a 16-year-old impressionable kid and you're watching these dudes just like owning this VFW hall with 15 people in it, you're like, I want to do that too, you know?
Right.
So I guess I kind of come from that. There's a bit of like some punk rock, pop punk, kind of indie rock style that I come from. And that I kind of grew up playing. And so when I listen to Sam Fender, I'm like, man, he's got, and also his lyrics are just incredible. Like he wrote a whole song about Brexit, you know, that a few years back when Brexit was going on in the UK. So he's got such depth and quality to what he's writing, but he's also doing it in this like really catchy and accessible way. And I was like, dude, I love this guy. I want to meet this dude and like go on tour with him. And, you know, I'll play my acoustic stuff and he can just rock out with the crowd.
Sounds good. Sounds like a collaboration is right around the corner. But
yeah, I mean, and honestly though, like to answer your question fully, I listen to so many, I mean, everybody says this, but I listen to so many different artists. I still love Jason Mraz. Like I listen to him a lot. Sam Fender, as I mentioned, and Alan Stone and people that I've covered. But there's this band called the Heydays. They were from New York. That's where you're from, right?
Yeah, New York.
And they had like a short little run, but I don't know. I listen to a lot. I listen to Etta James. Like, so I'm pretty like, I have ADHD when it goes to like my musical style. And I think most people can relate because you can tap into Spotify, and whatever you're feeling in that moment, you can click it on. You know, it doesn't, you don't have to put on a CD and listen to 15 songs and like
Oh
decide
yeah.
into the music. So
Yeah.
it just depends on what I'm feeling in the moment. And but yeah, I would say like as far as artists go, like Sam Fender is like my big of the moment person.
Mm-hmm. And who would you most like to collaborate with?
Oh man, collaboration. I love this artist named Briston Maroney. He's a younger
Mm-hmm.
guy from Tennessee. Or he lives in Tennessee now.
Uh-huh.
And this dude writes like I I can't like please look him up. If people are listening and they don't know who Briston Maroney is, please look him up. He is such a cool songwriter.
Uh-huh.
I think he'd be an awesome person to write with. And I also like the people from Johnny Swim, which is the band that I covered on The Voice.
Yeah.
I love their kind of like pop rock, indie folk kind of thing. I really vibe with that. And I mean, if they ever were like, let's do a song together, I'd be like, let's do it for sure.
I just reach out to them, just shoot your shot and just be like, let's do this.
Well, I mean, the coolest thing about the whole Voice thing was they hit me up on Instagram after the whole thing. And they were like, hey, we saw you did our song. And I was like, whoa, you know, because I've seen them in concert. I saw them in concert 2 or 3 times. And I was like, wow, now I'm playing their song on TV. This is weird. But, well, you know, so I mean, very humbly, it was cool to see them acknowledge it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. So that kind of brings me into my next segue. In March, you were on season 18 of NBC's hit show, The Voice. And what made you pick home for your blind audition?
Yeah, I mean, truly, sincerely, it was a song that I had been doing just in my sets, like local. So I guess to backtrack, as a singer-songwriter, as a musician, everybody can relate to this. But like, if you're using music to help you pay the bills and keep the lights on, so to speak, you're gonna have to play like cover sets. You know, you're gonna go to a local bar and they'll be like, play for 3 hours and play covers, because mostly people don't know who you are. And I think everybody goes through that. And so, you know, I picked that song because years ago I saw them on I think it was called Nashville Roots, and it was just like a YouTube show. And I found they were playing that song as a couple, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Like, I love this song. Yeah. And we're talking about like 3 or 4 years ago. So I had no idea this stuff was going to happen with The Voice. And so I started practicing it and playing it. And I think from a like, you know, very like clinically, you know, when I observed the song, I think it fits into like my vocal range and kind of my style. So I felt very comfortable playing it. And that was when I was at, you know, The Voice in LA, that I was like, that's the song I want to play. I feel like that kind of defines sort of a little bit of what I do.
Right.
And yeah, so it really all worked out, because in my experience when I was out there, it's not common that they let you pick the song that you want to do. Which is, I don't know if anyone shared that with you, but like a lot of the times, if they feel like they're going to have you be a part of the show, they want to influence a little bit of what you're going to play. Mm-hmm. Or they at least give very like strong suggestions, like, no, you should do this Andy Grammer song or whatever.
Exactly. And you're like, no.
I mean, but I love Andy Grammer, but I mean, like, you're sort of like, they could present you a song that you haven't played before, and you're like, well, I'm more comfortable doing this one, you know? So I guess the point I'm making is I was very fortunate that happened, that they were like, yeah, we love this, let's go with it. So that was cool. That's the reason why I picked it.
Yeah, I think that's crazy, because when I think of, because I've talked to so many people that have been on these shows, and it's like, if you're going to be on the show, you should pick your own song, because that's the first time the audience gets to see you, right? So if they just give you some random song and you're like, I don't really love it, but I'll do it because you're making me do it, like, that might be the only time that we get to see some of these people, right?
Right. And I think it's important, because we were talking about like authenticity earlier. Like, if you feel like something's in your wheelhouse, people are going to experience your true personality. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, it's so, I at least can tell. I think everybody can tell when you don't feel comfortable.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Especially when you're on like a big, gigantic stage with TV cameras. People are like, oh, this is not the song for this person, you know?
Exactly.
So I think, but I will say this, I don't know, I've never been on any other show or anything, so I don't know what any other experience is like with American Idol or anything else, but the people behind The Voice as a production in general, as it were, they were incredibly accommodating. They were so sweet. Yeah. And I think that they do recognize that the platform itself can provide, you know, a tremendous boost to somebody's career. So they're willing to work. There's some give and take. So they're like, okay, this person wants to do like, you know, a cello version of a Justin Bieber song. You know what I mean? Like, because they want your art. I really do believe this. They want your artistry to come through.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's when when they start to influence it more is when they find somebody that doesn't really have, that's an amazing talent, amazing singer, could probably sing anything. They don't have a song they want to sing, so they're like, oh, here's a suggestion. So I think that's where they kind of like put their. But when you're like kind of a singer, you know, playing at bars and you're like, this is the song I do every Friday night, they're like, okay, go for it. So,
Yeah. Cool. Good stuff. So John and Nick turned their chairs around for you, and then Nick came up on stage and you guys sang a song together. How cool was this?
very cool. I mean, I mean this sincerely. None of this was like, some people have asked me since being home, like, was that staged? Did you guys plan that? And I was like, no, not at all. And I was like peeing my pants because I, truthfully, and I mean this sincerely, I didn't watch a lot of The Voice prior to being on it. And I mean, and I'm not saying this to sound cool. I just never tuned into it much. I was always just doing my whatever. And, but when I did a little research on YouTube, I saw that like, it was very common that coaches would come up on stage and like sing with, they would just be like, hey, I got a song. Like John Legend would do it all the time. And I've seen Kelly do it, or Adam Levine do it, you know? So I was like, the night before my blind audition, I was like, man, I better start rehearsing everybody's songs just in case. Like, yeah, like, because you don't want to be caught like in a live TV situation. They're like, let's play a song. You're like, I don't know any of your songs. That would be super awkward, you know? So I the night before I just did that, and I kind of like, I was playing through, you know, Kelly Clarkson songs and Blake Shelton songs. Yeah. And it wasn't because I was like, I'm going to get picked. I was just like, man, just don't get caught with your pants down. Like, just make sure you have something, you know? But I really do like, I mean, I mean this sincerely. I like the Jonas Brothers. I mean that sincerely.
Yeah.
Like, so I really do love the song Love Bug. And yeah, I didn't expect any of that. When you're up on stage, you feel like you're under like a heat lamp. Like, I feel like, imagine like you feel like you're in a tanning booth. There's so many lights on you. You're just like, I can't, it's really hard to explain. It's like a vacuum of just like intensity, and you have the coaches talking to you, and it's all happening like real time. So yeah, it really was just like, do you want to play? And I was like, oh God, I'm so glad I played like 4 of the chords to your song last night. So I remembered it. So yeah, it worked out.
That's cool. So when you're up there, do you kind of just black out, like, because you're just like, oh my God, someone turned their chair for me? Like, because it happened so quick.
I would, so this is I tell this people, like everybody that asks about that experience, the most sincere answer I can give them is like, you really do kind of black out, because when you're playing at a bar in Chicago, or when you're playing, you know, anywhere around the suburbs, you're really in the moment. You can hear the crowd. You can like, it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel like a job interview. Let me put it that way.
Yeah.
And I guess my approach was like, the only thing I can control is like my goofy energy and like just giving this song everything I've got, because I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just going to try to kick ass. And if it works out, great. And yeah, it's like one of the most intense, like 1 minute and 30 seconds I've ever experienced in my life. I mean, you're playing to, there was a crowd of people, because this was pre-COVID, and you're staring at a bunch of, you know, chairs, and you're just, I don't know. It was bizarre, but it worked out. So
it definitely.
But to answer your question, as far as like blacking out, I remember like the only time my brain came on was when John's chair turned around.
Yeah.
You see like a track lighting on the floor. So like I was playing, and like you look down, and there's like in your periphery, there's like a track lighting that goes up. I'm like, oh my God, somebody turned around, you know, and that's enough to throw you off.
What was, or no?
Well, I wasn't paying it. I was trying to look at the crowd, and then I saw it was John Legend, and I was like, okay, so this is working out, you know, like this is happening. So it's a really, like, I'm just trying to put everybody in that driver's seat. It's not like any show any musician could ever play. Yeah. It is a reality TV show. I don't mean to be, you know, it's not like the normal experience. So it's really, I think kudos to anybody that goes through it and does it successfully and feels good about it, because I have felt the emotions. It is intense.
Yeah. So talk to us about Nick. What was he like as a coach?
He was awesome. He really was. And the thing that bums me out the most is like in the very beginning of the process, when I didn't know this going in, but when you go into a reality TV music show, you have a lot of like preliminary meetings with producers and directors, and like it's nothing like what it just seems like. It's not, you don't just walk off of the street and you're like, I'm gonna try out for American Idol. Like, there's a whole sequence to this. So
Right.
we had all these meetings, and they were like, listen, we are competing with Ellen DeGeneres' new TV show.
Mhm.
Usually The Voice is 2 nights a week, but in season 18, The Voice is going to be 1 night a week. So there's going to be at least 6, if not 8 of you, for no reason other than our producer's decision, are going to be chopped. And,
Yeah.
we're like, and everyone's like, oh, it's not going to be me. No way. And I thought that too. I was like, no, it's not going to be me.
Yeah.
But I fell into the group. So my battle round was, chopped, and they cut out all of the time we spent with Nick and the Jonas Brothers, which was really cool because they were seriously like, they are very humble, awesome people. Nick is a very, very humble guy, incredibly intuitive. He's really big on like owning the moment, like creating a show. I can tell he has like an acting background because I think his mindset is like, grab the audience with not just the song, like do stuff on stage so that they're like really pulled in.
Right.
So we had some influence there, but like in general, as a guy, he couldn't be more down to earth. Like if you didn't know him as Nick Jonas, you'd just be like, that's just a dude. He's a very nice guy.
He's just want to have a beer with.
I agree. And that also brings me to like one of my biggest nightmares is like, I said that to John Legend.
You did, yeah.
Well, I didn't say that because they cut out actually what I really said.
What'd you say?
So I was like, you do these preliminary interviews and they're like, why is it that you'd want to be with John? And I'm like, well, he just seems like the type, not only do I love his music is what I originally said. Like he's one of the most like amazing musicians on this planet, but he just seems like a guy you could sit down and have a beer with.
Yeah.
But they were like, John, I want to have a beer with you. And I was like, well, no, not just that. Like, this dude's a legend. Like, I want to like play music with him. But
exactly.
Anyway, I felt like after that I was like, oh God. But I feel like he really is that type of person. I got to meet him too, and he was an exceptionally kind person. He's not any different than he is, on Twitter, on Instagram. Like, he's the same person he projects on TV too. He's a very incredibly talented, incredibly humble person. So it's very refreshing.
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, and the thing with reality television and editing, I've talked to several people that have been on these shows, and they're like, we actually say so much and we do so much, and they just chop all this random stuff and piece it all together, and you're like, but what happened to the rest of that footage? I said this,
right.
This, or like, we did this, and no one's ever going to see it.
And that was, I mean, it's by design. I mean, it's a TV show, so they definitely have you, they want to get as much out of you until they feel like they can cut it up to the point where, it fits their show. So, I mean, but there was nothing like awkward or weird. It just, the conversation on TV, it looks like it was about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. The conversation in real life was probably about 12 minutes.
Right.
That we were all going back and forth and chatting and being goofy. And so, and I said a lot more to Kelly, and like, I would have loved to pick Kelly because I just love Kelly. But they didn't have any spots on their team, Kelly and Blake. So, and they didn't turn around either. So, but I mean, overall, I guess at the end of the day, it was I'm grateful for the experience because it was another stepping stone for me, for sure.
Mm-hmm. What surprised you most about your time on The Voice?
I think what surprised me most was just how fast-paced everything is in an experience like that. Yeah. Because I think we talked about this earlier with creativity. When you're doing stuff that, when you're creating something that you're going to put out, you definitely, it's like if you're a carpenter, if you're doing anything that takes your creative energy, you're going to take some time to like think about what you want to do. And in that world, in the reality TV world, fast-paced isn't even the way to describe it. It's like, you can't even, you don't even feel like you can catch your breath before you're on stage and you're preparing to play in front of, America or the world, whoever's watching, and that's how the blind auditions were. It's like, I think the thing that caught me the most off guard was like, you're in a little group of people behind the stage and they kind of tell you, okay, now it's your turn. So you stand up and you start to like shake things out and you're like, okay, here we go. We're getting ready. But then what they want as a production is they want the natural feel. They want to see you really like experiencing the nerves, so to speak. So they kind of send you into this little part of the side stage, and they're just looking at you with the cameras. So you're literally standing there with your guitar, and you're like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Like, it's like Will Ferrell. You're like a little, you know. And they're using it because they really want that raw emotion of like, holy crap, like I'm about to play to a bunch of like millions of people, you know.
Right.
So I think that whole part of it really was the most surprising for me, or not surprising, but it was like the new. I kind of had an inkling that that's what it would be like, but it was the most new experience for me, because when you're playing a show in the city or wherever, you have time to warm up. You can have a beer. You can talk to people. You can interface. You can warm up. You can tune your guitar. You know. They tune your guitar for you. They hand you your guitar. They're like, let's go. You're like, oh my God. Like, I feel like this is, you know, anyway. So it's not normal. I'll put it that way. It's not a normal experience, but it's fun. If you like riding roller coasters with your instrument, that's what it feels like.
That's a good way to put it.
Truly.
What's your favorite song to perform and why?
One of my favorite songs, you mean cover or original, or
either? Yeah.
Let's see. I love playing "Cover Me Up" by Jason Isbell as a cover, and I don't like, I never have considered myself like a country artist, but Jason Isbell, I think some would call him like Americana or like country, but I just think he's like one of the greatest songwriters that's like literally ever lived. I mean, he's incredible. I did a cover of one of his songs. It's on YouTube, and I don't know. I'm just so attached to that as a cover. I love playing it. There's just, I don't know what it is. Whatever he accessed when he was writing it, there's so much emotion involved.
Yeah.
And I always say this because like it doesn't have to be a big artist, but if I can feel what you're doing, like really feel what you're doing, I'm a fan. Like, I think when you're doing something that doesn't really relate, like if you're doing something just for show and I can't like connect to it, I'm sort of like, well, it was amazing, but like, I don't know, I didn't feel anything. But everything Jason Isbell does,
I
feel like my heart breaks every time I hear him sing, and I'm like, man, there's something to what he's doing, you know. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, no.
So yeah, every time I play one of his songs, I feel that. And then I think as an original, I like to play the song that I wrote called "Anything We Want to Be." I haven't recorded it yet. It's been years since I play it all the time, but I haven't recorded it. But I don't know, just as a standalone song, I wrote it at a time when I was feeling kind of pulled away out of my lane, I guess. And the song was a way of pulling me back, I guess, into my lane, if that makes sense. And
yeah.
So like, you know, from a song perspective, I love playing that song.
Awesome. I love it. So what's coming up next for you? Do we have live streams going, EP, singles, collaborations? What's next for you?
Yeah. So truthfully, there's been a little bit of like an internal war going on. I've been recording at home. I have, like I said, a little studio, and if we had the time, I'd literally pick up this thing, but I feel like my phone would die if I tried. But I've been recording at home, and you know, I've been talking to a number of different producers, like in Philadelphia. I actually got down to the song I did, Higher, the song I did, that's the most recent song. I was down in Nashville for that. I connected with unbelievable musicians. I was playing with like Kelsey Ballerini's drummer, and like, I mean, we're talking about like some of the top-notch like performers in Nashville that were playing on the song, and I was like, man, that was amazing, but I cannot afford to do that like 10 times over. It's so expensive to do that. So I came home and I was like, man, if I could teach myself to do a little bit of it on my own, that might help save costs. But really what's happening, and I think as far as like from an artist's perspective, I think the most important thing that I can do is write and continue to craft and mold like what I want to produce, like what I want to come out next. So I would say the next biggest thing that's coming out is my next song. And it's just because I have taken it to a point of like, I need to break down everything that's gone on in the last 6 to 10 months and put it into music. And whether I do it by myself, I have been improving a little bit, you know, as a recording person too. It's a little harder to like record and write your songs and record them. Right. But in these times, like, it's very helpful if you can figure that out. So I've been I think the next thing that people should be looking out for is my next single, which I plan on releasing as soon as possible. I'm hoping to do it sometime in March.
Nice. A couple weeks away.
Yeah, which is very close. But if that doesn't happen, it'll be April. That's for sure. But my goal is to do like a 3-song kind of, not EP, but like 3 singles kind of coupled as a release, and just throw them on Spotify and YouTube. And yeah, a lot of writing, a lot of recording. That's it. That's, I guess, the next week. And then of course, if shows happen, that'll be like, around here we're not able to play shows. So yeah, I don't know what's going on in New York, but
nope, everything. We're just staying at home. We're not doing anything. I mean, it's weird to think of the world with no concerts. I mean, I used to go to shows 2-3 nights of the week. Like, that was like my evenings, as I would attend these shows. And I'm like, so what do I do now? And I'm like, I'm going to develop this show. So
I love it.
Yeah, that's how it came out.
I think that's a great thing. And I mean, that's what we're evolving. I mean, we've evolved into that now. I mean, everyone's trying to create the best way they can.
Exactly. Yeah. So tell everybody on this chat right now where they can find you, plug all of your social media channels.
Yeah, I should type it in. So I think, like, people often ask, like, what's the best way to support an artist? And I will type in that if you look up at Kev Farris on Instagram, I just typed it.
Yeah.
That's my handle. And like, I think truly for me, what I'm trying to do, and I mean this sincerely, is like build a community around what I'm doing as a musician. And so I think that's the best way to kind of like move forward as a musician in these times, is like, if you can get a group of people that are really interested in what you're doing, keep going. And I would say, if you want to support what I'm doing, just kind of follow me on Spotify or follow me on Instagram, or I'm even on TikTok. I don't do like the dances, but I just play songs and, you know, try to do my thing as a musician. So I'll probably do a dance here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, there's no reason to try to plug anything at this point that's like over the top. I think really, truly, it's the most important thing to me would be like, if people are engaged and really vibing with what I'm doing, the biggest reward for me would be like, just follow along.
Yeah.
You
Share
know?
the music, tell people about the music. Because sometimes those YouTube subscribers, Spotify followers, like, though, that all matters, especially, you know, year end, when you look at how you've improved from the last year, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's definitely something to that, to the metrics, but I guess I've adopted like a philosophy recently in the last few months. It's like, I've been saying this, kind of beating a dead horse, but like, I want whatever the next few releases to be something that I would shamelessly plug nonstop to anybody I saw on the street. And I think every artist strives to have that experience where you're just like, oh yeah, this is like, I would die for you to listen to this. And I think in the world of like singles and like releasing one song at a time, there's a process for sure where you're like, I don't know if people are gonna like this sound or this song. You're kind of sampling your audience. You're sort of like, you know. So I guess my next, that's the biggest thing, is like, I want to be super excited about the next few songs and just get everybody amped about it with me, and so that hopefully if the world opens up, we can all kind of share in that experience together.
Yes, open up soon. We're ready.
And I was telling you earlier that, yes, I was fortunate yesterday. I got the first dose of the vaccine, so I'm like I feel like I'm one step closer.
You are one step. You are, because most of us can't even get the first one. So
right. Well, it'll be. They say by like July, hopefully it'll be available to everybody. So we'll see.
Yes, good stuff. So Kevin, now's the part of the show where you are going to perform for us. So take it away.
Cool. So I have my uke here, and I thought I would play an old song called "Love You Up." It's a love song, and it goes like this. No, my instincts, they run away from me tonight. Oh, oh, oh. No, my troubles I carry with me, wanna fight. Oh, oh, oh. 'Cause I believe in love, child. Call me crazy, alright. Maybe I might take you in and love you up. And it don't feel like you can really hear me just right. Maybe it'll kill me, so I'll take the hit and get back up. And only I would stumbled into morning light. Oh, oh, oh. And only I could cover up my line of sight. Oh, oh, oh. 'Cause I believe in love, child. Call me crazy, alright. Maybe, maybe, maybe I might take you in and love you up. And it don't feel like you can really hear me just right. Maybe it'll kill me, so I'll take the hit and get back up. Whoa, oh, oh, oh. 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 'Cause I believe in love, child. Call me crazy, alright. Maybe, maybe, maybe I might take you in and love you up. And it don't feel like you can really hear me just right. Maybe it'll kill me, so I'll take the hit and get back up. Get back up, 'cause I believe in love, child. Call me crazy, alright. Maybe, maybe, maybe I might take you in and love you up. Love you up. And it don't feel like you can really hear me just right. Maybe it'll kill me, so I'll take the hit and get back up. Love you up. Love you up.
Give it up. Awesome job, Kevin.
Thank you. That's the other thing about doing live streams is like you can't hear anybody in the audience, so everyone's like just silence after you play, and you're like, all right, thank you, I'll be here all night, you know.
Like, woo!
It's a very different thing, for sure.
I love it. You have another one for us?
Yeah. Do you want to jump into it right now, or do you want to do more questions, or what's good for you?
I'm good with another song.
Cool. Let's I'll grab the guitar and make sure
Cool.
it's in tune. Yeah, we're reasonably in tune. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
So this is that song, Anything We Want to Be, that I talked about earlier. I wrote it kind of years ago, and I've been meaning to record it, but it's, I think the idea behind it is like really, I'll just simplify it. It's like, it's very easy to get pulled in a lot of different directions in life. And I don't want to get philosophical, but like, that's obvious.
Yeah.
So it's sort of a song that has that pull, for me at least, that pulls me kind of back into like my center, I guess. And so that's kind of why I wrote it. So it goes like this. Well, I fell victim to the circumstance. What a waste of time. Stopped dancing with my heartbeat. Nearly lost my mind, and I'm free falling more than half the time, and that's alright. And I've been playing petty mind games. It should be a crime, thinking this life owes me for stepping off the ride. Still, I'm sorry. I'm hoping it reminds me just in time. Oh, and the worst of all this, there's a target I can't miss. Let the rhythm take control. Oh, 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 and I let go. Oh, 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 'cause I know you and me, we can be anything we want to be tonight. And I've been loudly imitating the demons in my mind. I'm daring them to catch me, and we're running stride for stride. And now I'm calling out real loud into the night. So I surrender to the story. Where do we go from here? It's funny how it never ever seems so crystal clear. Still, I'm sorry. It's been one hell of a year. and the worst of all this, there's a target I can't miss. Let the rhythm take control. Oh, 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 and I let go. Oh, 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 'cause I know you and me, we can be anything we wanna be tonight. And I found my place, I hope it's the only one I've known. Yeah, I found my place, I hope it's the only one I've known. So I let go, let the rhythm take control. Oh, 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 and I let go. Oh, 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 'cause I know you and me, we can be anything we wanna be tonight. Come on, take me home. Oh, 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 I wanna be alone. Oh, 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 'cause I know you and me, we can be anything we wanna be tonight.
Kevin, thank you, thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you guys for your comments. Eric, Colette, Sosie, thank you, thank you, thank you. So if you guys have any questions for Kevin, feel free to put them in the chat below. Kevin, you're from Chicago. What's the best pizza in Chicago?
Lou Malnati's, hands down. I don't have to think about it. I had it tonight. I literally had it tonight.
Yes! Yeah, I went to Chicago a couple years ago, and it was like somebody said like 7 different pizza places. I'm like, no, we got to go to Lou's, and I
So
had it. Like,
yeah, there's Giordano's. There's Gino's East.
Yeah.
There's Lou Malnati's.
Yeah.
There's Pequod's Pizza, which is like where Dave Grohl goes every time he's in Chicago, like with the food.
What's it called? P what?
Pequod's, like Peaqud''S.
Cool.
That is like, that's a very specialty deep dish pizza. It's unbelievable. It's like they kind of like intentionally burn the crust on the outside.
Ooh.
But it is deep dish. So no, but I Lou Malnati's, like, it's scary how much of that pizza I can eat. It's like, it's very devastating if you're trying to like stay in shape.
It's portion control, because the thing is, in New York we have the thin crust, and I'm like, I love. It's great. It's great. But we didn't really have deep dish when I was growing up. We went to Pizzeria Uno's, and I know the Pizzeria Uno's in Chicago is different than the rest of the chains around the country.
Uno's, I forgot about that. Yeah, that's not as big in the city, like in the city area. Like pizzeria, there is a Pizzeria Uno's, but it's not as big as like Lou Malnati's is the king, I think. Yeah. And like, I think Giordano's is like probably a 1A or a 1B or whatever.
Yeah.
Or Gino's East. I don't know how you want to stack it, but
deep dish.
And I may be crucified for this, but Lou Malnati's takes the cake.
I had it, and it was light.
So here's the thing though, like, people so I love New York style pizza because it's very crispy and crunchy, and I love that. Like, you can get like a really nice, like, no flap pizza like in New York, and I like that. But I feel like you have to prepare yourself if you're gonna have deep dish Chicago pizza. It's like eating cake. Like, you have to like not eat anything for the entire day. You
need to prepare yourself, because you can't just like carb load up. Like, you have to just like fast and then say like, I think I'm gonna maybe have 2 or 3 slices, but they're intense.
Yeah. Wait, I saw a question from Marie Colette.
Yes.
She said, where do you want to perform next? Yeah. I would say the Knitting Factory in Chicago. I mean, New York. That's not Chicago, New York.
Have you been to the Knitting Factory in New York?
I have not, but I would love to perform there. If it's still open, I don't know.
Hopefully it's still open. It is such a fun venue.
Yeah.
And so we have so many incredible artists that come through the Knitting Factory.
Yeah, I would die to play there. Because some of my favorite artists have like gone through there. It's like, you follow their tour, their list, and it's like, I'll be at the Knitting Factory, and I'm like, oh God.
You're going to happen. You are going to perform there. It's happening.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
What other instruments would you like to learn?
What other instruments? I think I would love to learn how to play the drums. I can play. So like I have right behind me, I have a piano. It's probably hard to see. I play a little piano. Like I can figure out things that have to do that really kind of focus on music theory. But when it comes to so I'm amazed at my brother's ability to play the drums, or anybody's ability to play the drums.
Yeah.
I don't understand how you can have so many moving parts of your body going on at one time.
I know.
Like, sounding good.
Drummers, yeah.
Like I can't, when I sit down behind a drum set, I'm like one of those wind up monkey dolls, just like, like that's all I can do.
Love it. Love it. What's the best advice you've ever been given?
Oh, man, I don't always follow it. I do not always follow it, but the best advice I've ever been given is be yourself.
I love it. It's so simple, but it's like,
it's hard. Sometimes it's hard because I think we inherently think that we're not good enough sometimes. Like when we see the social media world, you're like,
yeah,
oh, I have to do what they're doing. But like, I also know, like, my awareness is everybody's awareness is big enough to know that like authenticity is worth millions. And I don't mean by a monetary amount. I just mean that, like, this when you talk to somebody that's being authentically themselves at a party or at a bar, you're just like, I want to give you a hug. Like, you just
exactly.
And that's because I just feel like that's the essence of humanity. Like when we're authentically ourselves, I think we've constructed in our society a way to cut that off, because we've grown up watching, all kinds of different things on TV, and we're like, well, we have to be a certain way to be accepted. And that's not true. It seems like now, especially, one of the things that I love about what's happening in the industry is the people that are kind of blowing up, as it were, are like people that are just like so unique. And it's like, whoa, I've never heard anybody sound like that.
Yeah.
I honestly, this might sound weird, but like 21 Pilots was like that when they started. Are you familiar with them?
Yeah, I do know them. Yeah.
When they started in Columbus, they were like the weirdest, like, sound. They were like a rap, like, people were like, what is this? This is so weird, but they were so legit. They were so connected to like what they were doing.
Yeah. And
that they're now, I guarantee you their next record is going to be just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to be massive. Like,
exactly.
They built a fan base on being themselves. And I think, like, if I had to give that advice to anybody, and something that I still try to learn every day, is like, put yourself out there.
Yeah.
Don't worry about who follows, and don't worry about the metrics, because I fall into that trap like everybody else. Everybody falls into that trap.
Yeah, you just authentically be yourself, and the right people will gravitate towards you.
And it sounds like airy-fairy and cliche, but it's actually true. I mean, because the people that want to dial into what you're doing are going to feel what you're doing. The people that aren't connecting with it, that's okay. It doesn't mean they're mad or bad people. It's just not, you're not their flavor, 31 flavors of Baskin Robbins for a reason.
Exactly. Yes. So what's the best advice you would give to somebody, a musician, during this quarantine?
So God, that's a great question. In the beginning, I would have said, put out as much content as you can, because everybody's looking at their phones. But I really think, and I truly borrow this from a guy that I respect the hell out of. He's a local musician here, unfortunately passed away during this quarantine, but a guy that I had a tremendous amount of respect for, Max Brancchio. Yeah. And he had this, he was just saying, like, instead of like thinking about it like everybody's looking at their phones and this is a way to capitalize, like, dial into what you really are doing. Like, what is it that you want to do? And you don't have to do it at a volume. Just do what feels right, because that's what you truly are. Like, that's your present moment experience. And man, RIP, but also like what a deeply, philosophical thing to say. And I would say that to anybody. Like, if we ever have another quarantine again, I would be like, man, I've lived through one of these, so let me tell you, pull up a chair. No, I'd be like, even if it takes you 6 months to write the songs you want to write, and you feel like everyone's passing you by because you're not posting TikToks every 5 seconds. Yeah. But do the work. I mean, yeah, you can use that as like a guise for not working. You can be lazy and be like, it's quarantine, I'm writing. No, do the work. Yeah. And then release it when it's ready. But you don't have to. I feel like I would say just don't force anything if you can. Right. Because there's people that are doing the work. They're just not telling anybody. Yeah. And I think they're probably going to write some of the best records we've heard in like 10 years. Yeah. Like, I literally can't wait for Ed Sheeran and I mean this sincerely. I can't wait. When Ed Sheeran releases his next album, it's going to break it's going to break everything.
Oh, yeah.
You know it because like
Definitely.
he's just not doing anything on social. He's just like I'm being Ed Sheeran and I'm just hanging out, like he's raising a child and his next record. He released that demo. Now I did a cover of it, but I can't even remember the name of it. But
Yeah.
Afterglow. He released, it was a demo and it was like charting on Billboard and I'm like, oh my God, like when this guy is ready, it's gonna be out of control.
Yeah, it's gonna be
Same thing with 21 Pilots. So yeah, I think that's, and I'm no authority on like telling an artist what to do, but I would just say, because it's what I'm trying to do is like reconnect with what I want to produce.
Yeah, totally. Does anybody else have any questions for Kevin?
Let's scroll. I feel like I missed something earlier. I had a buddy that signed on.
Oh yeah?
Give me a hard time. He said no laws, drinking claws. I did have a White Claw tonight, so sorry.
Oh, cheers.
Yeah, we're not completely PG tonight. Somebody signed on and said, Kevin, you are so beyond talented. Oh, the kiddos miss you at preschool. Oh, it wasn't a question. This was just so I do some work with preschoolers nearby. So,
Aw.
Yeah. So like to keep the lights on, that's another thing I do. I work with kids and I also get I think I can get a lot of fuel from that for creativity. They experience life with no inhibitions and that's kind of it's a refreshing thing to be around.
Right.
Because as adults, we are not programmed to experience life like that.
No, not at all. Whereas kids, like, I don't have kids, but I just know that when you're around kids, it's like, oh, they view this like this. And it's like to see the world through a kid's eyes. Like if you were 7 right now, like it would be totally different, right?
I can't even imagine being a parent. I mean, it's like raising an actual like 1 or 2 year old or a 2-year-old kid that like can like communicate. I feel like that's, how do you explain to a child that like, well, we have to put this on our, I don't know. I don't even want to go there. Like that's,
oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's weird. But I think on the more, wholesome side, yeah, it's an amazing thing to see the world through a child's eyes. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, Kevin, I think that's all the questions that we have for this evening. What
Cool.
are final words for everybody in the room?
I would say anybody that's hanging out, I sincerely appreciate you spending some time on a Saturday night. I promise you, I know it has probably seemed like I've been behind the scenes and just like not doing a whole lot, but I've been working really, really hard. And the only way I can prove that to you is by releasing the next batch of tunes. So if you're interested in following along, it would mean a lot to me to follow me on Spotify and or Instagram or TikTok. You can find me on TikTok and Instagram at Kev Farris, which is my handle here. And then if you look on Spotify, it's just Kevin Farris. And then, yeah, I mean, send me a DM, say, hey, like I'm always open to chatting and saying what's up. And like I said, building that community. So that would be my final words. Just like hang in there. Hopefully like the world is turning soon. So
hopefully.
And I would love to play for you guys soon, like in real life, so you can hear, everything. But
yes. Yes, love it. Guys, if you don't already, please make sure to follow Kevin on all social platforms. We pinned his Instagram handle below. And if you don't already, please make sure to follow me. I'm Ashley Live. This is Vibin with Ashley Live. Kevin, thank you for spending your evening with us and just being so open and honest about music and everything else. I feel like we had this incredible conversation and it was so wonderful to chat with you.
Well, I sincerely appreciate the opportunity. It's been really fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe and wear a mask.
All right. You too. We'll see you.
Thanks. Have a good night.
Peace out.
Bye-bye.